Okay? Okay, very interesting. Okay, so some of this will be new to the majority of you, and that's, I think, part of the intention today. I always start our presentations talking about Buffalo and its people, and I think our greatest resource is the people of Buffalo. Our greatest natural resource is our waterfront. Our waterfront is unbelievable. We have so much potential there. So it's the goal of us is to restore the economic vitality down there, bring the people to the water, bring the water to the people. This is a concert this summer where we had over 11,000 people to enjoy the Tragically Hip. So it was a great opportunity, a great venue. This type of crowd comes to Buffalo and sells out every hotel room that's in Buffalo, and out to the suburbs as well. So when this happens, that's success. Our summer, we've had over 300 events and over 400,000 visitors. Now that's probably triple what we did the year before, and we're going to exceed that this year. So 400,000 visitors, that's a lot of people coming to Canalside in probably a 4-month window. Part of our goal as well is to get that to be a 12-month window. But that's a lot of people. We put in a water taxi, we have yoga, we have Zumba, we have food. That was the #1 issue that people wanted, was to have food, restrooms, and things to do. We accomplished all 3 of those. So we have food, we have events, we have the Adirondack chairs. People sit out for hours in the chairs just watching the water. There's something about water, there's something about mountains, there's something about sunsets that people love. It just lightens the heart. So when people come to our waterfront, if there's something to do, it becomes a great event. So we've had more people sitting there this year, walking up and down the wharf, and just saying, you know what, this doesn't feel like Buffalo, which to me was an incredible compliment, because it shows that we're doing things right and doing things to improve what's there. Also sand, we put a beach area in, which is kind of unheard of. It's a beach, but it's on the water, but you obviously can't go in the water. But people loved it, absolutely. You know, the kids flocked there, the parents would watch the kids, take their shoes off, put their feet in the sand. It was a great addition. We always live by guiding principles, which we also think are very important. And if we live by these, it makes my job a little bit easier, because what's important for us is public access, public use, low cost and no cost opportunities. We want to bring local vendors, local operators, local businesses into this area and have it so that it's affordable for the citizens. We want to have diverse use. We want to create neighborhoods, create an environment that's friendly. And we want to have recreation, cultural. The cultural aspect of Canalside is very important. There's a lot of history down in Canalside. The actual Erie Canal ran through, and I'll show you a little bit about the new canals we're putting in. But the Erie Canal ran right through this space. The Industrial Revolution, there's a lot of history on the Industrial Revolution. The formation of the Great Lakes, the Underground Railroad. There's a lot of culture, a lot of history on this site that we would like to tell the story about. The design has to be urban design, has to fit in to the context of what's down there. And it wants to be sustainable. We're big on LEED certified, LEED silver buildings. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to control stormwater. We want to make sure that we're doing what's right for the environment. In 4 seasons, we want this environment to work for 4 seasons. We know that our weather is a little tough sometimes in Buffalo, but you know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad at all. So if we can create an environment where people can enjoy being outdoors, it'll make life a little bit easier for everybody. And then the financial payback, this goes without saying. Right now, all the land that I'm talking about has been blighted area, has been 0 property tax base, and 0 sales tax generated down there. So anything we do will be an improvement. Anything we do in terms of development will be an improvement in terms of taxes collected. Multimodal connections. This is Canalside, this area right here. This is the light rail rapid transit. This is boat traffic coming from the water. And all the other lines are vehicular, pedestrian, bikes, joggers. We got several ways to get in and out of Canalside. This is what made it so successful in terms of having Thursday in the squares, which had been down at Lafayette Square for the past 25 years or so. When we moved it this year to Canalside, the ease of access just made it a great event and made it a huge success, because it was easy to control the crowds and easy to get in and out of. The other thing I talk about, and I talk about our waterfront, is 3 elements. One is the inner harbor, which I'll call Canalside. The other is the Buffalo River and Ohio Street, and the other is the outer harbor. 90% of what we've done so far focuses on the inner harbor, or Canalside. So as we look at that, and we'll zoom in on here, this is obviously the Buffalo River. This is the commercial slip and the central wharf. So 2 years ago, what you saw there was the Naval Museum, the ships, the central wharf, and the central wharf area is, so just that small area right there. Now what we're doing is developing this entire area, building off of the commercial slip and central wharf. When I look at Canalside, I break that down into 3 parts. The odd block, this is where Memorial Auditorium stood, that now is a hole in the ground, and we're getting criticized for that because it's been a hole in the ground for a little too long, but that's okay because we're changing that. And that is the good message today. Things are moving, things are changing. So the odd block, where we're going to put this canal in. East of Main Street is where we have the Donovan building and we have the Webster block. Those are 2 major projects. And then the south area is the Central Wharf, where we've extended this Central Wharf and we've actually tripled the size of where it was in the summer of 2010. It's now tripled in size, and we have more capacity as well. So 3 separate areas. Let me focus on the odd block. This is what we want the odd block to look like, something like this. Now, under contract right now is the canal system. We have this canal system, these bridges, and these tow paths ready for construction. There's office trailers on the site right now. So, things are moving. This is project number 1 in terms of a major project. This will be a $23 million project when it's done, and these canals will be in place. So, that's project number 1. In the background over here is the Donovan building. That's project number 2. And in addition to this is the Naval and Service Museum off the screen is project number 3. Those 3 projects are all going on right now. That, I say, is the tipping point to Canalside. When we have tangible progress in construction, it makes a difference. What we've done to date has been planning an event. 400,000 visitors this year is a huge celebration. But the question is sustainability for that. Once we start building buildings and having real construction, then we're going to have something that's going to make a difference. So this whole thing is what we're aiming at. This is what we've contracted, the canal system. This could be a market, public market. This could be a museum. This could be a Astoria Buffalo Center. This could be a building or a restaurant owned by private development, which is our goal. We have about $150 million in state and federal money. We expect to match that in private investment. And this is the first private investment, $30 million right there from the Bendison Corporation. We've also heard from the city, and I'll actually get into that, about the Webster block. But in terms of the odd block, these canals historically aligned to reflect where the Erie Canal was. That was a very important move for us to get these angles right. And that satisfied a lot of people in terms of the community. It's something that we listened to the community in terms of getting it right. It wasn't the way it was laid out originally. So we're happy to be doing that. And then these are parcels that we would like to see private development come in, occupy, take a building, build something, build restaurants, build shops, build something creative, and then we want to focus in on something like a market or a museum and have that be the icon and the core of this development. And then this is just a chart of all the different potential spaces and potential opportunities. We've talked to well over 200 businesses and talked about what it would mean for them to come down to Canalside and just generating a lot of interest. So nobody wants to be the first one in, which is pretty obvious, until they see tangible results. This year they're going to see tangible results when they see all this construction. There are actually 7 construction projects that I'll talk about. This is what it looks like in the wintertime. So when we talked about 4 seasons, this ice right here is pretty significant in size. And we had to cancel, not we, but Buffalo canceled the pond hockey tournament this year because it wasn't cold enough. I always say it's not cold enough in Buffalo. I don't think it's anything like Ottawa or Minnesota or some places where it's really cold. So Buffalo, we're a hardy group. We don't mind getting out. When we have this opportunity, something like this, to come out and enjoy it, people will come out and people will enjoy it. So this is a big thing for us to have this. It's a refrigerated system, so therefore it will be frozen. December, January, February, March, people will be able to ice skate. When they're not ice skating, we turn it back to water, and it's a canal system. And then again, we have the buildings around that will develop over time. Look at this. This is, and I don't know where this is, but it's probably someplace like Quebec or somewhere. It is cold there. But that's what we want to do. We want to have things and make it fun outside. We did it. We put a 30-foot Christmas tree up this year. We did some serious decorating on it and had it look really, really nice on the wharf. And it was a nice thing for joggers and people walking through. So we're starting with trying to get events and trying to get things to happen down there in the colder elements. But this is what we need to do. We need to plan a little bit better, and that'll happen over time. This is a good look at our ice surface. We could put 4 ice skating rinks in there for maybe 3-on-3 hockey. Something, not major league, but this is the scale of Rockefeller Center, 60 by 120. And you can see how that is just, how small that is in our overall canal system. So we've got some pretty significant ice space. And how about that? I mean, that's what people do up in Ottawa, right? How cool is that? Ice skating on the canal. All right, east of Main Street, I talked about that in the Donovan building. The Donovan block is the Benderson Development project. They're going to invest $30 million in that project. They announced last week that the Marriott is joining them as one of their tenants, and they have Phillips Lytle on the top 4 floors. So they have 90% of that building leased out now, which is, again, another major milestone in terms of moving forward. So we get the private community to make an investment into the project that we've initiated from state funding. We now are moving forward. Very happy about that project. Then we had last week, the City of Buffalo announced that they were going to RFP the Webster block. So the City of Buffalo owns that Webster block, and they also own these parcels in here. It was always our intention that we would buy that from the city, we would develop it. We're fine with the city developing it because the reality of it is, if it gets developed, it's fine. All we want is development. We want people that are serious. We want people that are going to come in there. And so, the caveat we'll have with the city is, don't let somebody come in there and land bank it. Don't let somebody come in there and sit on it until the whole development is done and make it that much more valuable, because it's a waste. You need to is why we have the momentum, we need this developed. So my comment will be when I talk to the city is, let's make sure it's not land bank, and whoever comes in is serious, and I think they're talking to some serious people right now. So to have this building done and this building done, along with our canals, along with our Naval and Service Bistro, that's, I think, 5 different projects. Add this canal that we're going to put in as well, 6 different projects that are ongoing. This is what the Donovan building might look like. That's the latest rendering of what that would look like. So that's a blighted building that's been sitting vacant, looking as ugly as could be for the last, I don't know how many years. And again, it's another site when you come downtown and you go, what's wrong with Buffalo? And you look at the Donovan building. Well, in 2 years when you get down to Buffalo, you're going to see that. A fresh, new, vibrant, LEED Silver certified building, and you're just going to look at Buffalo and say, it is changing. And that's evidence of it right there. We'll talk about this, the south area, the Central Wharf area. What we did there this past season, 2 years ago, you'd be able to come down here and you'd stop here to a fence, and it'd be dead end, and this would all be trash, all garbage behind the fence. And I never understood when I took this job. I'd walk to that and I'd say, I don't get it. Why do we not have complete access to the water? And it was just that somebody put a fence up, and it's always insurance liability, and nobody had the money to clean it up. And one of the first things we did was clean this up. And last year we put in a temporary asphalt road, we put in the sand, we put in the food, Clinton's Dish. We did all that last summer so we could activate this portion of the site. So half the site was blighted, the other half was active. We made this real last year. And we did it in a temporary way because we followed the theme of the lighter, quicker, cheaper. Get it up, get it running, let the public experience it, let people have access to the water. We found it was such great success, and our obvious plan was to make that now more permanent. So we're designing this right now in a permanent way so that what we'll do is extend the water, the wood all the way down here. We'll get a new configuration for the sand. We'd like to put volleyball courts, something like that in, but we're not positive yet, but it's under design. We're going to double the capacity of the boat docks down here, which the boating community will love, and make this permanent. This clearly was our back door last year. If you came up behind the DL&W, came from Ohio Street, if you came up South Park or Perry, you came into our back door and you'd say, it's no big deal, they haven't done anything yet. You came in over the bridge, you'd light up and you'd say, this is spectacular. We need to have this as our front door, and we need to have this as our front door. Everything needs to be our front door. So we need to be customer focused. We need to think of something like a model of like Disneyland, where everybody that comes in is a guest and we treat them like that way. Not that with, a lot of the people, the way it's been over the years is, yeah, it's over there somewhere. Yeah, you ask for help, nobody knows where it is. Where are the restrooms? Oh, they're over there, but they're closed. We need people, and we're training the staff to make this much more customer friendly. And that's the way we're treating it. So, with the addition of this, The fact that we sodded this, again, city-owned parcels, we sodded this last year. This is the stage that was put in for the concert that you saw on the opening screen. So we basically tripled the size of this. What was that? We basically added that, and we added that. And this year we're going to finalize this. So we've tripled the size of the site, and that just helps us have more activities there. So great success from the public. They loved what we did, and we're just getting, you know, they've been reading the newspaper reviews have been so positive over the last 12 months. And again, this is just a repeat of all the things that we did. 400,000 visitors. Next year it'll be 500,000. And then story of success. Here's the grain elevators in the background, and the Spirit of Buffalo, boating activity, fun activity, firework, 4th of July. It's a great 4th of July celebration. If you haven't been there yet, come this year. Come this summer. It's a great, great event. Big story on the grain elevators. The public is always mixed on that. Some people love them, some people hate them. And it's okay. What I think is that we need to take some of those and enhance them. Make them look better and figure out a solution, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But that's just, when you see a picture like that, you say to yourself, you know, there's some history, there's a cool picture. You get up close to that, you say it's decrepit, and actually you can't get close because the roof is caving in, and the owner of the property won't let you close. So that's part of the problem that we deal with in terms of historic preservation. So on the Outer Harbor, what we're doing on the Outer Harbor, there's a parcel right here that we own. So now getting back to some perspective, here's Canalside, here's the river, and here's the Outer Harbor. Outer Harbor is hundreds of acres, and there's a lot of contamination out there, and it has not been developed, obviously. Small boat harbor is there, Doug's Dive. So now the NFTA, who owns all that, has taken an RFP, and they have a private firm coming in and they're negotiating with them right now. Independent of that, we own this parcel. And we want to take this, and we want to green that parcel, and we want to give the public access to that. The public has access over here to Times Beach. We did a little work on the lighthouse down here, which is adjacent to the Coast Guard base, and this is going to be open to the public as well. So again, part of the guiding principle of public use and public access, the public will be able to come over here, take a water taxi over, or go out Ohio Street or over the Skyway, get to the Outer Harbor, visit the lighthouse, visit this site here, and then we're going to green this parcel and make it accessible to the public. This is what it's going to look like when we're done. So it's at a different angle, obviously, now, but back, here's the water, here's an inlet, here's a natural beach area. What we're going to do is, with the goal of access, you can bike, you can jog, you can walk, you can come into the area and touch the water. You can get to the water's edge. We're going to berm this up and make it kind of cool, put some awnings, tents, seats. You can sit here and see a site that nobody's seen in years. It hasn't been open to the public. And the views from here are just spectacular. So fixing this area up, and we have a joint purpose here. One is public access, and two is shovel-ready developer sites. This parcel back here, we're going to cap all the land and make this ready so that we can RFP it once the Buffalo BOA is completed, and RFP it so we can have development there. We don't know what the development will be yet, but we would love a developer to come in and tell us what they could do there. And then we would RFP that parcel out, and that's a pretty significant parcel. It's about 6 acres. And in the short term, it's green, and we can do a bunch of temporary things on there, depending on the demand and depending on how many people come out. In the long term, we want a developer to come in and say, hey, I'll invest $50 million or $30 million or $100 million, and here's my plan. And then we'll vet that through the public and see if it's a great idea. But that's development on the Outer Harbor, and it's getting it jump-started. Now, how about this cool look? That's a grain elevator in Quebec City. Now, that's what they've done to their, we saw ours before in the blighted. We have a study right now. We took bids this week on the consultants. We had 8 of them come in, I think yesterday or the day before, to do something like this on our grain elevators. I think there's about 15 different grain elevators throughout along the river. So we're trying to figure out what the right strategy is. We can't do them all. We want to do kind of test cases. I'm sure this costs millions of dollars to do that. That's not exactly what we're trying to do. This thing, if you ever saw the video on this, they have an unbelievable, probably 50 different options they can do with the lighting. They can, one scene had animals chasing each other, just running up and down, back and forth, all done with lighting. So the sophistication of that is on another scale. But that, when I look at that, I say, that's what the grain elevators, even if this year we pick 2 of them, or even 1 of them, and just say, let's do something. It'll be something more than what we've done for the last 50 years. That's the kind of progress, and it's incremental. It's not trying to hit it out of the park. It's just trying to focus on one or two of these things and make a difference. And then maybe we'll do two different things. One will work, one won't work. Then the next year, take the one that worked, use that as our model, and expand that to a couple other elevators. So that's the type of thing we're working on. Here's a great look at some other elevators going up the river. So this concrete alley is an amazing sight if you're on a boat. And you come up here and you just, if you hear the historic tour or take the water taxi up here, it's pretty incredible. But, one of the, not these, but one next to it fell into the river last summer. So some of them are just decrepit. And, we need to be cautious as to what we think we can do and how we can help them. But we want to do work up the river. Now, here's another interesting thing. This yellow line is Ohio Street. Another complaint that we hear is that nobody knows how to get to the outer harbor. And I agree. It's confusing downtown and it's confusing to get to the outer harbor. So what we have to do is create a path and a roadway that includes signage and gets advertised better. And when you get on Google, you can just hit Google, directions to, and you know how to get there. Same for Canalside. So on our website, you should be able to click in where you are, hit Canalside, it'll zoom you right there, so you don't have to worry about which are the one-way streets and what, so you don't get yourself trapped. It happens all the time. I can't even describe it to people sometimes. But look how simple that is. I took my bike from that corner to that corner, which is Doug's Dive right here. It was about a 5-minute ride. So when I say 5-minute ride on a bike, all of a sudden it clicked to me because I thought it was complex too. But that's a straight shot. That's a straight shot. 5 minutes on a bike, and I just jogged it last weekend. And I didn't make it all the way. I had to stop right about there because I knew I had to go back. So I had an hour limit, so I got to there. But it's easy to get there, but nobody knows it. And so that's on us now. We want to take that on and say we want to do Ohio Street. So what do we have to do? We have to work with the city. We have to make the street better. We have to make it appealing. We have to do things, put more trees in, put in a bike lane, put in a walker lane, put in better sidewalks, put in a whole bunch of green, you change the utilities, the storm, the water. We have lots of storm and water sewage problems in terms of where the city is. So we need to fix that street up and then make that the link, put better signage so that people can get to the outer harbor. Once now you're downtown at Canalside, you can take this path out here and get to Doug's Dive or whatever it will be called this year. You can get over to our parcel over here. You can get over to Times Beach just to get some life into that outer harbor. So things are moving. There's Ohio Street. The construction projects, just kind of a recap now. The public canal system on the odd block. That's what we have under construction right now. The Donovan office building, private development, under construction right now. Bistro at the Naval Park, under construction right now. Permanent extension of the Central Wharf, designed right now, not bid yet, will be under construction in the spring. Cargill Ice Cream Site, that's the big picture I just showed you of the outer harbor. Designed, will be bid in the spring. East Canal System, that's the canal that's in front of the Donovan building. That has to be opened at the same time as the Donovan building, which is January 2014. We'll have that designed in the summer and it'll start construction in the late fall. Cars on Lower Main Street, that's a project with the City of Buffalo, where you've probably read about it, they've started Cars on Main Street up on the 700 block, then they're moving to the 600 block and the 500 block, and we want to have Cars on Main Street on Lower Main Street so that cars will be able to access Main Street and follow the rail cars up the street, just to give cars more of an opportunity and have businesses that are on the street better opportunities so that customers can get to their front door. So those are 7 active projects that are all working right now. So when I think, again, I talked about it before, the tipping point. People have said things aren't happening in Buffalo, things are moving too slow. Well, it is a slow process relative to some other things, but you know what? Congressman Higgins, at one of the last speeches I heard him, he said there's been more done in the last 3 years than the previous 36 years. So that's a great testimony to say things are moving. And when I know that 3 things here are under construction and 7 will be in construction, I know things are moving. When we have 400,000 visitors last year, and next year we're going through the programming and the event planning right now, when I know that we'll have 500,000 next year, it just says to me that we're guaranteed success. So we're at a tipping point, we're past it. I think that snowball is rolling down the hill and it's getting bigger and bigger. People are excited about it. People who visit Canalside say the same thing. I don't feel like I'm in Buffalo. this is unbelievable, and this is so much fun. So we're making it a destination and a place to be. In addition to that, we have upcoming projects, the art, the programming this year, and I won't go through all that, but that's what's in our queue. So we have more things. So the events that we have, the construction that we have, and then more things. So it's just such a great plan and so many things to do. To me, it just constantly reinforces the fact that we're doing the right thing. When I look at where we are at Canalside, the other thing that's great about this is I think this is Buffalo's new front porch. When we have a lot of visitors come from out of town, and you say, where are we going to meet? You know, we'll meet at Spot, we'll meet at Starbucks, we'll meet somewhere. I think the new theme is going to be, we're going to meet at Canalside. Because we'll have food, we'll have restaurants, we'll have things to do, and it'll be such a great place to get down here and look at the water and just feel at home on the water and recognize the history. And then depending on the events and what's going on and what season it is, and you have people maybe dressed in certain period costumes telling stories about the history of what happened there. That's a great thing to bring to your relatives, and maybe the people who moved out of town that didn't like it here, couldn't, or not maybe didn't like it, but couldn't find jobs. Maybe now we'll be able to create some jobs so people can come back. But this is generating a lot of interest and a lot of hope. I think that's another word that people are saying, I can't believe it's finally happening, but it is finally happening. So really, this is the end of our presentation. It just shows that we are so close to so many great areas, and that's why I think that this area will be kind of the front porch of Buffalo, because people will want to be here, and then it's close to all these historic treasures that we have within walking distance. And I'd like to say for everybody to get on our website, join the Friends of Canalside, constantly dial into what we're doing, drop us a note. Get on, as I say, Eric is here, he's our Director of Communication. Sign up, and we'd love to keep you informed as to what's going on. So that concludes the formal presentation. So questions? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I didn't see anything on residential. Don't you have to have people live there?
Yeah, it'd be great if there were, sure. So
high-rise or?
Well, mixed use is the term I always use, which includes residential. So on any of these parcels, this is one, that's shovel-ready developer site, could be used for residential. This is a great site that I think is absolutely wants to be residential. It's boating storage right now. So the boating community would not love that idea, but I think that residential here, looking back into the city, we could have some stick-built housing there, not high-rise housing, but because it's buffered from the wind, because it's on this side, I think it's a great opportunity. And let me get this picture, all in here, this is all going to be RFP'd out. Problem, the one which we talk to developers, we talk about housing, we talk about retail, we talk about restaurants, mixed use of all sorts, office buildings. Everybody's problem is parking, and we haven't solved that problem yet. So we expect what we want to happen is what we expect to happen is the developers to solve it for us. So we're talking to guys like Rocco Termini, who's developed several different pockets of residential downtown. So he has a plan to come in and buy one or two or six of these parcels, and he's got to provide parking for the people who want to live there. But mixed use, that could be retail on the ground level, it could be office space on the second, it could be apartments, condos on the third and fourth level, because these will all be four-story buildings. So up in here, any of these buildings, mixed use again. So residential is a core component of it. We expect that. Yes, sir.
Do you have a limit in height?
We do. So these are four-story. This is, I think, 160 feet, and I think this is 160 feet as well. Yes, Bob?
Tom, two questions. Number one, wasn't there talk about moving the Coast Guard base to an alternate location and be able to utilize that portion a little bit more effectively?
Yeah, but I don't know because of, so that's down in here. I think maybe the concession was they gave up some of this land because of, and I don't know enough about it, but Homeland Security is pretty serious down on that corner. We had a photographer down here taking some pictures, and that night the Homeland Security showed up at his house. They wanted to know why he was snooping around. So you're being protected.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a plan for that in the immediate future. This is a pretty good site for them, from what I understand. They created access to the lighthouse, which is what the public wanted, and then they created some open space here. But in terms of a full-scale move, I haven't heard that. Just scaling back.
Second question, you have is there finally a stake driven in the heart of the big box, big bang, big development piece that was stymieing development for so long? Or is that behind us, or is there still some thought of trying to create incentives for that type of development?
No, I don't think incentives is the word that we're using moving forward. I think what we're using is what's the best fit. So what we know is we've developed this canal. Now we've created opportunities here, we've created opportunities here. We're investigating a public market, we're investigating museum. So, but we don't know who might come at us. If an Apple store came, I think an Apple store would be very cool down here. So that's not a big box, but it's a representative big retail chain that would, I think, could enhance this. We're also trying to get local. We would love to have the Lexington Co-op. We'd love to have Oliver's, the 31 Club. We'd love to have Earl from Pearl Street Brewery open up a second location down here. We really are pushing local. We'd love to see a bunch of smaller locals. And then these are 6 different parcels, and they're owned by the city. And then this is, one big block that's owned by the city. So I think that the big box is not in our plans. It's not on our drawings. We don't talk about it. But I mean, just being honest, if somebody came in and said, this could be a good idea and without incentives, we would look at it, right? We'd have to look at it. But I think the pledge of giving incentives out for anybody right now is not on the table. We're trying to do it more smaller and more incremental. Yes, sir.
Tom, you mentioned refrigeration in the winter.
Yep.
How deep is the canal?
The canal is 18 inches, and so that's always a question too. Why is it not deeper? And there's
I saw
safety.
pictures of boats there,
Yeah, exactly. But the 18 inches, you can get a little boat. It's not a motor. It's not motorized. And what we're trying to do is get some historic boats where it's kind of like, I don't know the exact term for it, but it's like a gondola where a guy stands in the back and uses some sort of a figure-8 motion to propel it across the water. What is it? Scully. So, okay. So John Montague from the Maritime Center, he's going to build some of these boats, and then they're kind of vintage, what was used back then, and but 18 inches. So we had 4 foot originally, and with 4 foot, for safety reasons, we needed guardrails all along the side, and then the preservationists didn't like that because it raised the water height as well, so we lowered it to 18 inches, and it got it more accurate to what the water height was when the Erie Canal was there. We can't get everything perfect, but we saw a lot of advantages in the 18 inches. Now, in the winter, we drain that down to 3 or 4 inches and freeze it, because the piping is already in, and the concrete is going to be in the concrete below.
How do you bring it down if it's connected with the river?
It's not. It's not. So this here is Marine Drive. This is not a pass-through. So this is a separate pot. This water is completely isolated from the river. We did not want the river backing up into it. Okay. Anything else?
It's good to hear something being done.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. That's always.
Someone will complain.
Well, that happens all the time, right?
At least,
It's progress. It gives us hope. That's the way I look at it, that more has been done in the last 3 years than the previous 50 years, and there's tangible evidence that people are happy.
I've been to the concerts down there. They're fantastic.
Aren't they great?
Yeah.
Aren't they great?
And there is a sense of like, forget your Buffalo.
Yeah.
It's really.
And I think that is that. I swear to God. I mean, I'm from Buffalo, born and raised, live here. I go there every weekend just to observe, and I sit in a chair and just watch people and watch emotions. And people are like smiling. Kids run to the sand. It's safe. It's clean. We create that environment. And then we have the hope of what we're building now to bring on more.
What's up, Skyway?
It's always a question that comes up. It's nothing that we're going to do nothing with that because we have $150 million. It would cost us $150 to take it down, and then we'd have nothing, right? So the way we're looking at it is that we can build all of this, plus some river, plus some outer harbor, fixing grain mills, get the Ohio Street corridor, with our 150, and then have private investment come and make this a place. And then you know what? The Skyway, I can't pick it up here, but sometimes we have the dotted line going through as to where the Skyway is. It's just going to be there, and for me, I just look through it. And, we are trying some funky things with that, with lighting it. Now that's not owned by us, so you can't attach anything to it. You can't get too close to the bottom of it.
By the city?
DOT, Department of Transportation, everything goes through them, and they just tell us, stay away. Because think about it, you have all these big support systems coming up. We say, we'd like to nail a connect a banner from here to there. And then, are you crazy? The whole Skyway will fall down if you do that. And then you can't get past that, so you don't even try. But what we are doing is working with some lighting on the piers. So just, I'm sorry? Right? So again, it's taking, and there are interesting, so while everybody seems to hate the Skyway, and I'm neutral on it because 40,000 cars drive back and forth and it has a function, I would say let's just try to do something cool with it. You know, like they lit the Peace Bridge, maybe we could do some lighting on this, or hang some banners. And, you know, I remember one of the concert series, I think it was Crowded House, the guy was from New Zealand or Australia, he looked up at it and said, that is awesome. You know, it was his first look at it, right? So here's a guy out of town saying, that is awesome. And they have some big overpass bridges where he comes from. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't this year as opposed to like last year, year before, along the Skyway, as you come over the Skyway and you get off, haven't some of those roads been redone and new signage? Because I do an event at Gallery Beach every year, and it is, you know, becoming more visually.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
I mean, as that becomes nicer in and around that Skyway, it's not the eyesore that I think that people originally.
You're exactly right.
Because when you come over the top of it, it's not nasty anymore,
This
or
whole,
as nasty as it
this whole
was.
stretch has been redone.
It's really nice. The
And
signage
it is
is
nice.
nice.
It's
The new roads are nice. There's bike paths along there now.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
There's an elevated section, which is the Skyway, and this is an old picture, so, but there's an elevated section, which is a Skyway, and then there's a new Furman Boulevard, I
Yeah.
think that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So the Furman Boulevard is the lower path where you have 2 lanes of traffic that can see the water at 30 miles an hour. And you have a path where you can pull over and watch and observe and park. So, and you have a bike path. So all of that has already been created. So what that does from a transportation standpoint is that it makes it easier to find your way around. And I think there's more cut-throughs, because we used to come down here years ago to the pier and always get lost. Right? You try to get there and you couldn't find it, and then when you came out of there, you couldn't find your way home. So we all, that happened to all of us, right? Not because we had a beer, it was bad signage. But anyway, this is so much easier to travel right now. And I think as we move, you know, so we learned that lesson. You know, downtown and these areas are hard to find your way around. Signage will always be an important element, always. Anything else?
I just commend you what you guys are doing. I don't know how many people have ever been to waterfront places like, you know, like I've never been to Ottawa, but like Baltimore and things, and having seen the capacity and the flow of traffic to a meeting place, to an event, and to see that this is coming to fruition in Buffalo is really exciting.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You guys should have a meeting there.
Yes.
Somehow find a way to get down there and,
This way it feels a little warmer.
yeah, right when it's warm. Or next year bring your ice skates. Right? All right, well, I'll say thank, oh, yes, sir.
One question. The young lady that was talking is my daughter. I grew up in Buffalo, and my dad worked at the Ford Motor Plant, which is right in there. And
Down this, down that way.
he used to talk about, when he came home, he says, oh, Ohio Street was terrible. I had to get over to Furman Boulevard and, you know, things that you had mentioned. My daughter has run a foot race. And you could run a foot race. You said you walked it or you rode your bike.
My bike, 5
down
minutes.
just Ohio Street run. And you go down one way and turn around, go back the other way, and you got a fundraiser.
Yep,
There you go.
exactly. And then, you know, they have the Shamrock Run every year down here in the, you get my bearings, at the First Ward Community Center. They do the Shamrock Run, and it's actually not this week, but next weekend, March 3rd. And they used to run out to Route 5 down to Tiff Street and back. They used to do that, and they closed it down last year. They changed it because of all the construction. So now they run it up Smith and Elk and back around Seneca Street. But I like your idea. We need to fix that road and then we can use it. They had, last year they had a triathlon out here. They had professional athletes come in for a triathlon. And we were not part of that, but you know, we keep dialed in. And the biggest complaint we heard of that was they closed it down to the public because for the safety of the athletes. And it was like when people were trying to get there, they couldn't get in and out, right? Because they had, and I don't know what the route was where the athletes ran, but you know, traffic for a big race like that, traffic control is always a headache. So, but I know so many people. I knew one of my nephews was involved and volunteering, and people were crazy because you wanted to come down and watch a pro runner and see what a pro athlete looks like and runs and trains, and the public couldn't, they were blocked off because they didn't want a lot of car traffic down there. So that is something I think with all of our events, we work and try to make our number one goal. I always use it as a guiding principle is public access. All this waterfront is for the public. That's what it wants to be, and we need to have the plan to carve it out so that it stays that way. Yes, sir.
In Ohio,
Good program.
their faith was always affordable, family friendly.
Yep.
That's what we need to make.
Yep. And I think we support all of those.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Especially with the dry county.
All right. Well, with that, I'll say thank you very much, folks. I appreciate your time.